On today's episode of Agency, I sat down with Aldo Carrilo, a marketing expert who's worked for industry-leading brands such as Netflix, Paramount Pictures, Impact Theory, Walt Disney, Nestle, and Hasbro. Join us as we unpack his industry-leading and groundbreaking insights on marketing strategy, social media, brand activations, and so much more. Welcome to the pod, and I'm gonna make sure I try and say your name correctly. So it's Aldo Carrilo.
Perfect.
Hey.
Yes,
and
I love it.
So you actually grew up in Mexico City.
I did.
How old were you when you left?
I was 31. I left when I was 25, went to Orlando, worked at Disney, and then came back to Mexico for a few years, and then decided I want to go back to the States.
You missed it, yeah.
And
what pulled you back? Was it the food, the culture?
definitely not the food. Living in Mexico, definitely not the food.
Dude, the food in Mexico is unreal.
Right?
Yeah, I felt like when I had Mexican, I was like, I've never actually had Mexican. Like, no matter how good of a restaurant I went to, it's not the same spices and the same ingredients. I don't know. Yeah.
Once I worked at Disney, I knew I was hooked in entertainment. So I was there for a year, went back to Mexico, and I started working at Hasbro.
Yeah.
Which was also entertainment adjacent.
Maybe more toys and
yeah, but I was working on the toy lines, the IPs that had movies. So while I was working there, I worked on Transformers.
Wow.
The first one with that was the Michael Bay.
Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah. Megan Fox.
Wow. So when you say you worked on it, like what exactly did you work on with Transformers?
So I did a marketing campaign, the strategy for the toy lines.
Wow. Yeah.
So it was more on the CPG side.
Yeah.
But just being able to
Sorry, what's CPG?
Yeah, consumer product goods.
Got you. Yeah. Yeah.
And just, being able to be kind of like in the inside of how things are made before they are on the big screen.
Yeah.
The behind the scenes, read the scripts, see the things without the CGI.
Right.
It just was like a great hook for me.
That's interesting, man. So how did you even end up in Disney, right? Because we're talking about a different country. We're talking about a pretty outlandish career trajectory. So what were you doing prior to Disney and how did you get into marketing?
So I went to school for engineering.
Okay.
So
you could say marketing is kind of like engineering, psychology.
It was I graduated top of my class, and I realized I didn't want to be stuck behind a computer all day. Little did I know we're here now, that we're all stuck to multiple screens.
There's no getting away from it these days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But at the time, it wasn't for me. And I've always been creative in my, drawing and building stuff. And so I didn't know what to do. I was working as an engineer setting up call centers.
Okay.
So
when you talk about setting up a call center, are you talking about infrastructure of technology, or are you talking about the hardware or software?
Both.
Wow. Okay.
So set up physical, but also the software to run them.
Yeah.
And I was just not passionate about it.
Yeah.
And I was there for a year and a half, 2 years, and I discovered this program that Disney had, international program, that in Epcot. You know what Epcot is?
No.
So Disney World has 4 different parks.
Yeah.
And 2 water parks.
Yeah.
So 6. One of them is called Epcot. Is the one that has the big bowl.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a lagoon, and there's 11 different pavilions of different countries around the world. So Disney, being Disney, having the branding and they have and the experience, wanting to give a real experience, authentic experience to those countries, they hire people from those countries.
Okay, wow.
And they fly them to Orlando. They put them in sort of dorms or communities to live together.
Yeah.
And they all work together at the park.
Yeah.
So
sounds like a fantasy, man.
I was amazing. Yeah. 2,000 people from all over the world living together, working together.
Yeah.
And I was there for a year, and I took some classes at Disney and the marketing classes, and I just trying to figure out what I wanted to do.
Okay. What were you doing while you were working there?
I was a waiter.
Okay, so you were waitering.
Yeah. In Mexico.
Yeah. In Orlando.
Exactly.
And so when you say you were taking classes, does Disney have its own education system?
Yeah, they have a Disney University.
Okay. Wow.
Open for employees.
Yeah.
Sign up and take courses and classes.
Wow. Okay.
There's a Disney college program for people around. I think it's around the world.
Yeah.
They can just go there, do practice in hospitality and entertainment.
Okay.
And then they all live together. It's like everyone's young.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to work hard, have fun.
That's a cool experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved it so much. I still have friends from France and England, and
it's like you went to the ultimate like high school or college.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
But you don't have to study a lot.
Yeah,
so, just take classes and.
It's optional. So you were studying Disney, and like, does that entail like the history of Disney and like where it came from and like how to manage the brand? Like, what kind of courses are we talking about?
Yeah, they kind of teach you how Disney became Disney, how they manage the brand, the storytelling. How it goes from an idea to a movie to a park to a consumer product to
all the different tiers.
Right.
Was there something in there that surprised you when you started to study, like something that you weren't expecting, or was mesmerizing, or something that really caught your attention?
It's something that you kind of like know, but you're not aware of how Disney takes one IP, one movie, and then they print that in every aspect of the company.
Right. From
cruises to hotels to notebooks to TV shows, like they have ABC, they have cruises, they have parks, they have, every angle of the company can touch on that IP. And so they have the means to promote it, and they also have the IPs. So
because you got the parks, which are a platform that I'd imagine have millions of patrons every month, or I don't know what those kind of figures would be, but I imagine it's a lot.
Huge,
then they have like, their brand, their distribution chains, all the other companies that Disney own. So I'd imagine that like a franchise like, let's just say The Mandalorian, like it's in a cruise ship, it's an attraction at the different locations, it's merchandise, it's so many different things.
It's every product, everything they do is to promote that movie, right? And it was a fantastic time. There were movies coming out at that time. Like High School Musical was just like hitting, and everyone knew what it was. And it was at the park, and there were like a High School Musical band playing. And you're like, well, the park, but High School Musical doesn't really. But they make it seamless. That it makes sense to be there. Right.
Do they have like how Google have the Googliness culture, and they try to cultivate a certain energy in their peers and on the team? Did you find anything like that where they're like, you need to kind of conduct yourself in a certain way culturally, or?
So it's funny because in the parks, or actually across the company, they don't have employees. They have cast members.
Oh, okay. I like that.
So you're a cast member. You're part of the magic.
Wow.
Which is fantastic because you actually are part of the magic. You need to, the service that you provide needs to be the highest quality. There's like, the customer is always right. They take that to a different level.
Wow.
Because it's about the experience, and it's about the memories that you create, and don't let small things like hurt the brand. Going back to the brand. And then just build from there. At that time, Disney wouldn't allow, for guys who wear long hair to wear earrings, to have tattoos. Girls wouldn't have, their earrings would have to be like the size of a quarter. They wouldn't have like different color hair. They have to wear stockings. Now they're a little more easy. But they still that was a Disney look.
Right.
They want to protect the families and the,
there's a certain energy.
Like I said, now I think they're a little more open to that. They have evolved, and that's a good thing about Disney. It kind of evolves. While continuing growing the equity of the brand.
That's like what we were talking about earlier. It's difficult to maintain a brand's equity over time, right? Because and we'll dive into this when you're working at Netflix, what that culture was like compared to Paramount. Disney's quite different, because I think when you've got 100 years of a legacy, you got to juggle like being innovative and cutting edge and doing new stuff, but then you have to like kind of carry the torch for previous generations of where the company came from.
And even outside of work, like you kind of like, if people know that where you work, it's a reflection of the company you work at. Right. So it's not that you can't do anything, but it's important that you are aware of, like, you are reflection of the company.
That makes sense. And they seem a bit more inclusive and open arms now, maybe than back then. So what year was that when you were at Disney?
Well, now you turn about my age. I was 25.
Okay. And you literally graduated from Disney.
So
by the sounds of it. No?
It's not like graduation. You
Yeah.
just take like several courses here and there.
Yeah.
So
but you can kind of say, So then you went back to Mexico.
Yeah.
How did you bounce out of there and into Hasbro? Was it because of the marketing that you'd accomplished while at Disney? Or were you doing other curriculums while you were there and contributing in other ways other than waiting? Or
Yeah, it was interesting because it was a shift in career. You know, like I was an engineer, like good at numbers, and organization and structure, and then a waiter at Disney.
Yeah.
So how do you tell the story, right? So it's like,
like this resume doesn't look great.
No, and I was like, you know what? As a culture representative of the country, I would help sell the storytelling and
so it there in a creative way.
Yeah, you know how resumes are.
Yeah.
And then, I just tried to look for something that would fulfill me. And I knew I liked entertainment. I like working with kids or on kids' brands. And marketing kind of like brings the creative and the data-driven numbers, organization, structure together.
Yeah.
So not a lot of jobs do that.
Yeah, not a lot of people can pull off both.
Yeah.
Because I run an agency, we have almost 30 people, and people are either hyper creative or hyper analytical.
Yeah.
Seldomly can they bring both those worlds together where they can be analytical and wildly creative at the same time. Because it seems like two hemispheres of the brain.
Yeah.
So I can imagine it's not an easy role to fill either.
Exactly.
So you felt like you kind of brought those two worlds together, understanding creativity and then understanding numbers and structure and systems. And
Because in marketing, some marketers are more creative.
Yeah.
Some marketers are more analytical. On the brand creative, on the brand marketing, you have a P&L. You have the numbers. You need projection, forecast, sourcing, budgets and how much to spend, allocations. So like all those number things and business things, reaching KPIs. And then you also need to come up with creative ways to sell the campaigns, to do the commercials, to do the posters and key arts and events, and how to partner with different companies.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like a great balance of both of them.
Yeah.
And because it was toys that were tied to IPs like movies or TV shows, that kind of like got my creative juices flowing.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you take me into the moment, so like you're at Hasbro, and what was your role there in the beginning, and when did you kind of like end up at Hasbro?
So I went back and started at the bottom.
Yeah?
Yeah. I was like, what's the name? Hold on. Like assistant brand.
Okay.
Brand assistant or something like that.
Yeah. Just running around getting coffee, things out of the coffee machine.
No.
No?
That's assistant.
Okay. So brand assistant.
I already did that in Orlando. I was bringing coffee and food.
Yeah.
So I graduated from that.
Yeah.
I own like the P&L and the marketing for specific brands.
So when you say brand, I'm thinking like you're an assistant to someone who's doing the branding.
Yeah, so there was a director that would manage, let's say, all the boy brands.
Right, okay, yeah.
So in the boy brands would be, different type, like Nerf would be one.
Gotcha.
And once we started doing partnerships with other companies, Star Wars and Transformers, and then Marvel. So
and then
she
Disney
would have that, and then each one of us would have one brand.
Right, so then the big companies would do contracts or collaborations with Hasbro because they have the capability to put everything together.
Right.
Is this a frequent thing where they're partnering up, or I can imagine these companies like competing with each other at the same time as well?
Yeah. So for example, Hasbro had a partnership with Marvel.
Yeah.
Who had a partnership with Paramount. So, and not a lot of people know this, but but Iron Man was actually made by Paramount.
What? I thought that was a Marvel film.
It is.
Yeah.
So Marvel worked with Paramount to bring Iron Man to life.
Okay.
And Hasbro worked with Marvel to produce the action figures.
Got you. Yeah.
And then after, I think it was Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, Captain America, the Avengers, then they sold Marvel to Disney. So now everything you hear about Marvel, you assign to Disney. Yeah. Right? So Disney did a good job like owning that. Like Marvel is Disney. But it even started with Paramount. Yeah. So Hasbro had a partnership with Paramount, but then they also had one with Disney separately for Toy Story. Yeah. So Mr. Potato Head. Yeah.
So if you take me into like the day-to-day operations of being at Hasbro, like if you take me through a project, like what's the process? Okay, there's this movie coming out, we need to produce, like what's the thought process? What's the strategy? What are you guys talking about? And what's the plan of action that you're typically kind of rinse repeating throughout the industry?
So it starts from setting up a budget, you know, and that's the big companies, you know.
Yeah.
Hasbro in the US is like, we're gonna sell $10 million of product or $100 million of product. And then how that trickles down to the markets.
Yeah.
So once I get my number, let's say it's $1 million.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I have all these products.
So they'll be like, these are the SKUs, this is what we're creating.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it was my job to see how many pieces of each one I need to order to source to the country.
Right.
And then what's the different products that in each one, or the different characters in each assortment.
Yeah.
So once you said that, you're like, okay, so the sales team would talk to Walmart, and okay, you're gonna take 30% of this, and then based on a number, and then the same for toy stores and department stores. So that's kind of like how you allocate the budget that you have to promote in those kind of stores, to buy TV commercials, to start with press and events, etc. While I was working at on Transformers, that's when Facebook started.
Wow, yeah.
So I was like, ooh, Facebook, what's this? Like, so I created like
maybe we could do some marketing on it.
I created like a profile for like Bumblebee.
Yeah, now it like is marketing, but back then it was like a new thing. Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, Bumblebee's on Facebook.
Yeah.
It looked different, but
So you created profiles and started doing social media stuff?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
With a voice. And it was like not a lot of people understood what Facebook was.
Yeah.
So an interesting story is when it started to like become something, my boss came to me, he's like, you're an engineer, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, so now you're in charge of social media.
That was the conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, do I get a raise or anything? Yeah.
No, not that. And then, so I started with that, and I would fly to Rhode Island and have these meetings about what social media was and how we're going to use it. And then I was managing social media for Latin America.
Wow, okay. So you were managing, and this is for Hasbro?
Yeah.
Okay, and you were doing Transformers, Nerf, like who else were you managing at that time?
So I was working on Transformers, Star Wars.
Wow, okay.
Which, interesting story, I hadn't watched anything Star Wars.
Wow, okay, so you're managing the social media and you're like, I should probably...
No, I was managing the whole thing. like choosing the toys, the campaigns. There was...
So if people are going to be offended listening to this, but do go on.
Well, so
have you seen the film since?
Well, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. No, it was... Look, when I was interviewing, the director, the general manager, asked me, what's your favorite thing about Star Wars? And I was like, I'm going to be very honest. I don't know anything about Star Wars except that the fandom is amazing.
Yeah.
And he was like surprised, like, I think someone would be expect like to lie on interviews.
Yeah.
To like, embellish your resume.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can either tell you the truth right now or the truth's gonna come out later.
Yeah.
So you know what? I don't know much about Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't buy the toys when I was young. I know a little bit of that. But what I know is that when people see Star Wars, they go crazy.
Yeah.
And I think what I can bring to the table is that objective perspective and not getting to the... I'm a fan, and I'm gonna bring the toys that I want because I want them. Yeah. And be kind of like blinded by the fandom.
Well, that's a really good point, right? Because do you know who Mark Ritson is?
Who?
Mark Ritson?
No. Ritson?
Ritson, yeah, Mark Ritson. I'll send him to you later. But he's pretty prolific in the space of marketing, and he has this really cool framework where he's describing the value of people in marketing.
Yeah.
And he was saying that, if let's just say you ran a tennis company and you had Robert Federer or someone who just finished college studying marketing, who would you hire to manage your marketing division for selling tennis rackets?
Yeah.
And he was explaining how you wouldn't want to hire Robert Federer to run your marketing because he's a professional player.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean he knows how to connect with the general market.
Yeah.
Right? He's playing tennis at this pedigree. he might not understand how consumers think or behave. Whereas if someone from marketing came in, they would sit down and interview you, like who's the product for, what's their age demographic.
Yeah.
You have to go through all of the data.
Exactly.
Which is what you were essentially in charge of, which is understanding, okay, there's an IP here, there's an audience here, how do we build a connection to sell this materials versus getting caught up in the fanfare of things.
Yeah, and Star Wars it was very unique because, the movies had come, 30 years before.
Yeah.
Maybe more, I don't remember. So the fandom of Star Wars were adults.
Yeah.
But we were not going to get those numbers of sales selling to adults.
Right.
So you need to get to children to buy so the audience was not the audience that, or the fandom that wanted to buy the toys.
Yeah.
You needed to like really focus on who the audience is while serving the fandom.
Interesting.
So if I were a fan, I'm going after the fans.
Yeah.
Because I speak their language.
Yeah.
I did not speak their language, but I managed to understand their desire to be part of this and the excitement. They've waited 30 years for something to come up. So there was I would get emails all the time and calls all the time from the fan base. Yeah. And the fan groups. And they were so passionate, like, why you're not bringing this character? And I'm like, well, and then I go to the numbers, well, because it doesn't sell.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I did was I would bring special products for that fandom specifically and create events with them. And so nurture that because they're so loud.
Yeah.
You want them to...
They're advocating, promoting, endorsing the brands.
Yeah.
They're like, I want this one figure. And you're like, oh, there's not a lot of money in it.
Yeah.
But there is in a weird way because if you feed the fans,
exactly,
then they'll promote. And
And
is that why some Star Wars figures are now extremely expensive?
Yes.
They're based for the big time collectors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or they were unique when they came out.
Yeah.
And then the story brought them back.
Yeah.
So with the original and now the new one, you get exactly.
It's like Boba Fett has his own show now. People are buying the old toys, and it's a weird market. Like collectibles is such a strange one. Is that a part of the strategy at Hasbro? Do they know how people fanfare over collectibles and what that means?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's a very specific area of the brands.
Yeah.
That you need to tackle them differently.
Yeah. Hey guys, welcome back. We had to chat to the staff here at the Normandy Hotel, and they've been wonderful enough to turn the vacuums off. So we're ready to dive back in, man. So sorry about the audio. What's your opinion on how social media has changed the landscape for, big brand IPs like Marvel and Star Wars and what have you? Yeah.
So for me, social media was a way to communicate with consumers.
Yeah.
And have a two-way conversation.
Okay. Whereas in the past, you kind of had to wait for letters in the mail, or.
Well, yeah, but it's more that it's a way that you can measure.
Okay.
And you can get insights. Because to get insights before, and still now we do it, but it focus groups.
Okay.
Now you put people in a room and you watch through a window and ask specific questions. And then you would go to Nielsen and see what the TV shows are doing and what the ratings are and how much you should pay for a spot. And then you look at the numbers on which action figures are selling more than others.
Yeah.
So it was like trying to piece together a puzzle.
Okay.
And there's this famous concept that you never know what marketing effort that you did is the one that had impact.
It's tricky, right? Because when you just see a surge of activity, you're trying to scramble, where's this coming from? How do we repeat it?
You don't know if it's the billboard, you don't know if it's a TV show, you don't know if it's, a kid in the mall with a toy that everyone saw.
Yeah.
So you really don't know. You can, have educated guess. And, there's ways to measure it and impacts and views and stuff like that. But then social media came and you're like, okay, I posted this. This is what people are saying. Yeah. This is how many people are watching, how many people are sharing, what's their opinion. So for me, it was game changer. Oh, I get all this information from them. Yeah. For free. Yeah. And then I can activate that, and I can build strategies around that. So from the beginning, I saw that as a great opportunity to really take marketing where it was going. Yeah.
And I think that, it gave you a lot of access to talk to people right then and there on the spot, gather data. When you were looking at this data, what were you trying to look for early days on Facebook, social media? What activity were you trying to get from the community?
First, it was interest. You
Okay.
know? Are they interested in like this brand? Are they interested in this campaign, in this movie, in this, you know, like, oh, you know, the trailer got millions of views.
Yeah.
Well, they're definitely interested. Which character are they talking about? Bumblebee. Oh, let's bring more bumblebees.
So for the toy sales, would you know, strategically try to build a trailer to sell toys?
Yeah.
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 Wow.
We have commercials.
Yeah.
So it's like small trailers.
Yeah.
But then you get to be creative on, you know, like with animation and, you know, the kid playing in the ground and
Yeah.
special effects.
There's one that people make memes about where it's like, now with action, like this
Exactly.
and that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny how, you know, commercial for toys keeps doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're like writing commercials,
yeah.
picking the actors and trying to put the whole thing together.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that, you know, kids are not on social or should not be on social. I'm not going to talk
Yeah.
about it. That's,
Yeah.
That's a different thing. Should they be or not? I don't know. But you get a sense of general population, what
Okay.
they think. And then I moved to play school and it was talking to moms.
Yeah.
Who are the ones that buy the toys, right? So with commercials for toy brands, for boys and girls, they influence the purchase.
Yeah.
In play school, influence the mom,
Yeah. Okay.
even though they're toys.
Different strategy.
Yes.
Yeah. What was the different strategy that you experienced between Disney and then Hasbro, and then let's maybe dive into your time at Netflix and Paramount?
Yeah.
What was your experience on how they kind of think differently from each other?
Each company is different in a way.
Yeah.
In their own ways, their own brands, their own cultures, their own goals. But marketing is marketing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you just need to, and it's not, you know, the typical 3Ps and sell, you know, find what it is that people want and be able to sell it. No, marketing is PR. Marketing is partnerships. Marketing is creative and sourcing and forecasting. There's a huge amount of people that work in marketing.
Yeah.
And it's just trying to understand how each piece of the puzzle falls in together.
Yeah.
And you as a marketing, you kind of like need to put that together. Even
Yeah.
if they're not reporting to you or different areas, you need to piece everything together and understand what the communication is, what the message is, and what's the psychology of the people that you're talking about, and how you're gonna get them to be like, huh, you know, first it's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting,
Yeah.
that's cool. What is it? So the first you need to get from them, that's what you need to be able to compartmentalize.
Okay. What do you think was the most audacious or crazy campaign you came up with, or promotion, or what have you?
So I was at Netflix.
Yeah.
And I was working on, we call it international original shows.
International original shows.
Yes.
Yeah.
So shows that were not from the US or English speaking languages.
Yeah.
So after Netflix launched on Latin America and Europe,
Yeah.
they started producing shows for those regions.
Is that where, like, you were talking about Money Heist?
Yeah, Money Heist was one.
And what was the other one that's from Korea? I don't know.
Squid Games.
Yeah, was that Netflix or was that
Netflix, yeah.
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 So you're talking about those international projects where you're trying to activate different audiences around the world. Yeah.
And some of them were bought. Casa de Papel or Money Heist was bought or licensed by Netflix.
Okay.
So it launched in Spain, and then Netflix licensed it to launch globally.
Yeah.
And then it became huge. And then
Yeah.
Netflix took the following seasons.
Okay.
So
yeah.
it became a Netflix show.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was working on this show. It was called Club of Crows. You know, like the Crows is a soccer team that was playing in Mexico, and I kind of like turned it into a real soccer team. So even though it lived in the universe of the
it's
show,
like the Mighty Ducks. It's like, we need the real one.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Mighty Dogs. But then Mighty Dogs became
Yeah,
right.
exactly,
So,
yeah.
Which is funny because now Club of Crows has a soccer team.
There you go.
But
So you feel like the father of this soccer team because you're like, kind of influence this in marketing.
yeah, we were just talking like, how do we, what do we do this? It was a comedy. There were like 3 great characters. 2 of them were siblings that were fighting for the presidency after the father died.
Yeah.
And we just started tapping into pop culture. So we created Twitter accounts for each one of the 3 characters.
Yeah.
and they would talk to each other, and not only about things in the show.
Yeah.
They would talk about the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And how the guy who the brother wanted a suite at the Super Bowl because he was like, you know, a posh guy, and she was like more business, and she's like, no, this doesn't make sense. So she was like a badass, amazing badass, a great actress, great character, and also he was, you know, so, you know, full of life and funny and interesting. So each season we would create, you know, ways to promote the show within the show. And then we would create other things outside the show. Yeah. So we made a press tour, or what's it called, the press
conference?
Yes.
Press conference, yeah.
So they created a press conference, and then we made that press conference in real life. But instead of being the actors, it was the characters.
Yeah.
So we invited the press, but it was the press that covers sports. Yeah. In addition to the ones that cover, you know, entertainment.
So you were like integrating real life commentary on things that were really happening with these fictional characters, and really trying to play with the pop culture and the audience. Yeah. And they would comment on, you know, like there was an eclipse, and then he would comment about the eclipse. Yeah. And it's so funny how they would like interact with each other, and then with other teams outside of the real soccer teams outside of the universe of the show. Yeah. And we did that for every season, and each season we would like, you know, have so much fun. We had skits with former presidents, with you know, celebrities, with commentators. Yeah. And everyone was having a great time. And each season was probably like, you know, 9 to 12 months apart. Okay. And between season 3 and 4, the World Cup was in the middle. Yeah. And we're like, well, we need to do something. Yeah. Right? Like we need to be there. It was the Confederations Cup too, so it was in Russia. And there was no reason for us to do anything with it. Okay. Because we were not promoting the show. You're like, but marketing.
Because marketing, you know, at the end of the day,
opportunity, audience, you know.
You do want them to like buy your product or come your service, you know, like that. And we got a partnership, and then the partnership fell off, and we're like, you know what? Let's do this for the audience. Let's do this for the fans, for the consumers of the show. So we took the main character, the brother. We took him to Russia, and we started to produce content in real time. So we shoot during the day, post-produce overnight, post the next morning. So let's say Mexico was playing. Yeah. And then 4 hours later, you have a 5-minute video of a story of Mexico playing while this character was there. And then the next day, the same. So we produced 4 videos in 5 days. Yeah. And in the meantime, we were posting on Twitter, on Instagram. So it felt like it was like a real thing. Yeah. You know, it felt unscripted. It felt authentic. And what we noticed was that because of that, more people started to watch the show from the beginning. So
wow, they were going back.
They were going back.
Reactivating it.
And before that, it was just a lot of like paying for advertising. Right. Paying for commercials, paying for influencers, paying. Yeah. And that was one of the first things that we did, that was we just earned media. We did something that people wanted to cover. Yeah. And wanted to talk about. And we're not paying anyone. And they started, like, famous players were starting to like comment on with us. Wow. Hey, you're here. And then, you know, it was very funny because by accident, when he was there, like they would score and win, and when he wasn't, they would lose. So he became like the lucky charm. Yeah. So then the players in the team were like, please come to the next game. You know, like, so. It was so much fun. Yeah. The result was amazing, and it kind of like made us think on, let's think of what we're doing and how we're gonna reach that audience and how they're gonna start, you know, talking about us without them paying. Yeah. And that's where, you know, like kind of like earned media, you know, and we were like, you know, pay to earn. Yeah. Not pay to consume. Yeah. I get you. And when did you end up at Netflix? Because you were at Hasbro. Yeah. And then how did you leave Hasbro in Mexico and then end up at Netflix here in LA? So after Hasbro, I went to Nestle for a little bit.
Nestle, yep.
Nestle.
You hit all the big ones, man. Disney, Hasbro, Nestle.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting to learn from those big companies. Yeah. So Nestle, I was there for about a year and a half. working on social media, and that's when it started to like blow up. And
Did you get to meet George Clooney?
No.
Oh,
I did not.
yeah, because he was crushing it with those ads. That
Yeah, Nespresso.
Yeah.
I was actually working on coffee, and then I didn't drink coffee. So
Yeah.
there's a pattern there.
Yeah, there's a pattern, man. You know, Star Wars. That's okay. That's all good, man. We forgive you.
But then I understand how people are fascinated about coffee.
Yeah. So you were at Nestle, and then you was it Paramount, then Netflix?
No, after Nestle, I wanted to go back to entertainment.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be in like the birth of entertainment. That's LA.
Yeah.
So I decided to do a master's, an MBA.
Okay.
And then moved to LA. And went to UCLA.
Yeah. And how was it going back to academia post all of this amazing stuff you'd done with your career? Was that strange? Did it feel like taking a step back, or was it you were working at the same time as studying and it just added to what you were doing?
For me, it was one more step in where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit of a nerd, so I love learning.
Yeah.
And understanding, and I never had the exchange experience. So I lived in Orlando, and it was a great experience living abroad. So I was like, I would love to do this. Let's see what comes from this.
Yeah.
And then I was there for 2 years. I interned at Disney at the time when Disney was buying Lucas.
Yeah.
So I got to work on a little bit of research on there. And then after 2 years, I graduated and I got a job at this media for U.S. Hispanic company.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
It was interesting because I'm from Mexico, so I'm Hispanic,
Yeah.
Latino, but the U.S. Hispanic is a whole new different thing.
Yeah.
So and it comes from all Spanish-speaking countries.
Yeah. I noticed that everywhere I've been here in LA, it's like pretty mixed.
Yeah.
The Latin American influence is pretty big here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies used to look at them as like, oh, they're Latinos.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, there's many different flavors.
Yeah.
So
they're not all the same.
And then the Latinos that are in California are more usually more Mexican. The ones that are in Florida, they're more diverse. So you can't speak to them the same way.
Yeah.
They don't all like the same music. They don't like the same food. When companies started to understand the diversity, that's when they started to grow a lot more.
And do you think that, from your time at Netflix, that you were able to really understand the psychology of how entertainment is consumed in a different way? Because I know we talked previously about your work with Stranger Things and managing the cast and being involved on the shoot and all the rest of it. What role did you have to play with Stranger Things? Because I'm a nerd. I love that show, and I remember seeing all the stuff on social media. I'm just curious if you were behind a lot of that. Yeah.
I was in the so there was a big team for Stranger Things.
Yeah.
There was a core team that would create the trailer and the poster and like work with them on set. And then once that was sort of like done, they would like give it us to like different regions.
Okay. Yeah.
And it started like a young adult title that kind of like blew up, right? So, and it didn't just blow up in the US, it blew up worldwide. So Netflix started to grow a lot more and more accelerated once internationally countries started to sign up.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, because it was big in Australia.
Yeah.
And I remember watching the first season, like kind of being a little bit scared. And then after that, it was just awesome. Yeah. The first season seemed a little darker, so I don't know if it was like on purpose that they kind of tilted the dynamic of the show, but
it was a new show for the showrunners.
Yeah.
They had some experience, but this is definitely like nothing like they've seen before. It became like #1 title for Netflix. So we wanted to make sure that audiences had an insight to the show, not only through the show, but through the cast.
Yeah.
So the cast and the kids were in press tours around the world and around the US, and they were everywhere.
Yeah.
Started produce apparel and license, and so everyone wanted to like see how they can take Stranger Things to different countries.
Would you say that like prior to that, Netflix hadn't really cracked the market as aggressively with like toys and merch and things like that up until Stranger Things, or did they have a bit of success with other titles as well?
No, they didn't. They didn't had any. Mostly not a lot of experience on licensing.
Okay, because I noticed that Stranger Things was like on everything, like merch, toys.
Not in the beginning.
No, but I noticed that like even like we were down in LA in the Hollywood Boulevard, and like one whole store was like dedicated to merch.
That's a Netflix store.
Oh yeah, like the whole store was like pretty much Stranger Things themed.
Yeah. But that came many years later.
Okay.
Because they wanted to focus on what Netflix is about, is great content.
Yeah. Whereas like Disney seems to be maybe a bit more like entwined into the toy sales and the theme parks, and they're maybe more conscious about the broad scope of what an IP needs to be at Disney, whereas Netflix, it's more about the show that they're watching. Yeah.
It started like that. Now there's licensing, there's experiences, there's games.
Yeah.
So they are definitely like branching out.
Okay.
Because they see the potential.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, Disney, every touch point of the company and its partners, you can see the IPs.
Yeah.
And that's, their storytelling is just magical on how different levels they can touch.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for Stranger Things, they were in a press tour, and I'm from Mexico, as you know.
Yeah.
And they took the kids to Mexico to do a press tour and events. And I really wanted to like put a stamp on Stranger Things from like Mexico. And I'm like, what's the most Mexican thing that people are very proud of?
Yeah.
And despite the food and all that, which is an experience, the music, but we have pyramids.
Yeah.
Right?
It's kind of cool.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Not every
That's
country.
my only regret from Mexico City was I didn't get to go and see the pyramids. I was meant to do it on the last day.
Yeah, I remember that. So I took the kids, they came with their parents, and we took them to the pyramids.
Wow.
And we just, took a few pictures, took a few videos, and that just like exploded. Because everyone like, they're here, like they are this. We took videos with them with like the flag and singing mariachi, and it just is like they're valuing their fans all over the world.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like, it became more grounded, more intimate.
Yeah.
I noticed after Stranger Things, it felt like there was a lot more value on the actor. Because it seemed like they had like gotten a groove now through a lot of the marketing I see has the actual actor just speaking to the camera.
Yeah.
On their social media.
Yeah, it's those kind of shows like created so many big talent.
Yeah.
All of the kids. The biggest one when we started shooting was Winona Ryder, and then the kids were the ones that got the spotlight.
Yeah, because she was famous.
She's
like big time famous. And then who's the guy that plays the goofy kind of cop? I always forget his name. Hopper. Yeah, I feel like that kind of built his career. It seemed like that to me.
Yeah,
he was,
and he's like consolidated actor now.
Yeah, now he's like in a ton of different stuff now.
Yeah.
And it's interesting kind of watching Netflix create this ecosystem from scratch. It's kind of our generation's Disney.
They just had the platform.
Is it weird because you meet people before they're famous and then they're like big shots?
Yeah.
Do you watch them, their ego change and their lifestyle change? Is it a weird thing to watch?
But I love working there. We were very social media focused.
Yeah.
And people were kind of like afraid of that.
Yeah.
Or they didn't know what to do, and a lot of actors and talent. So the bigger they are, the more reserved they are on what to try and what to do.
Yeah.
But like these people were like, yeah, I'll do it. For social media, great. And then we started having like one hit after the other. Like this went viral, and this went viral, and this went viral.
Yeah.
So people started to look into that. They're like, oh, yeah, I'm game for that.
Yeah.
So those barriers kind of like start to come down.
And then, so after Netflix, you went to Paramount?
I did. I was in Paramount for a couple of years during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
Yeah, it would have been interesting, man. Because that's when all the platforms were like blowing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it was difficult to make, film shows and all the rest of it.
Yeah. But the films that we had, we would like sell them out to other streamers.
Okay.
And it was great. I met, amazing people, very talented people. The culture is very different. And coming from Netflix, that was, you take ownership of your decisions and responsible for your decisions, and it's more about like context and not control, to a movie studio that has, Netflix has hundreds of shows.
Yeah, it's more, maybe, would you say television show oriented, whereas Paramount's a bit more maybe movie oriented? I guess it's changing.
Yeah. So Netflix was, now it's a little bit of, it has all of it. You know, it has documentaries, it has reality TV, unscripted, kids shows, movies, shows, dramas, comedy.
It's broadening the longer it's been,
And I was fortunate I got to work in all of those different genres.
Yeah.
So that kind of gave me a broad vision of where we are.
Who was like your favorite group to work with or your favorite project at Netflix?
Besides the one of the soccer team that I loved, there was, I really loved working on this kids show, and it was with Julie Andrews. Julie Andrews was Mary Poppins.
What was it like working with her?
She's amazing.
Yeah.
She's everything you expect her to be. She's nice and polite and proper and so kind and sweet. And you know, they say like, don't ever meet the people that you are a fan of.
Yeah.
And she just like blew it out of the park.
Wow. Okay.
She was so nice and awesome. And she would like collaborate, and she's like, what do you want me to do? So she would like, you're in charge. You tell me what to do, where to stand. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm giving like direction to her. Like she has like so much more experience in this than
she's
I
like
do.
mega famous, like going down in history as one of the greats.
And that's what happens. The best actors and those talent that are huge are more respectful of others.
Did you ever hear about the kid from Karate Kid? Have you heard that story? I don't know if it's like a real thing or not. But you know the original
Joe Maggio or not?
Who was the original? David.
Daniel San.
He's in Cobra Kai now. Daniel San. Yeah. Apparently in the first movie he like blew up.
Yeah.
And then when they filmed the second original Karate Kid, like the OG one, apparently he was a nightmare to deal with because he was like big shot.
Yeah, it goes to their head.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But now he's in Cobra Kai and it looks like he's killing it. But
yeah, exactly. You know, like sometimes you're high, sometimes you're low in life.
Yeah.
But the people that really focus on work, you know, you just need to like, at what level you are in what industry you are. If you have a meeting, if you are to work, you need to show up.
Yeah.
You need to know what you're doing or have a sense of what's happening and take notes and be able to like get feedback. If you come in and you're like, I'm better than everyone else, it's gonna be hard.
I agree, man. I agree with that. Like there's an importance to humility as well, because I think sometimes you never know who's in front of you or what's happening their day or what have you. And I think just bringing that energy into the environment is always gonna help people. And then the fun thing about Cobra Kai for me was like how, essentially Netflix like flipped the whole original series on its head by messing with the fact that Daniel San was the bad guy.
Yeah.
And like,
it's like Wicked, the play.
No, it's just awesome, man. It seems like Netflix have a really good streak going on. I know One Piece is murdering it, and that's been a lot of fun to watch and all the rest of it. So it's really cool to see a company kind of evolve and grow and change like they are. Yeah.
And we were talking about this, but Cobra Kai I think started on YouTube TV. It was a YouTube original.
I didn't know. I thought it was a Netflix thing.
No. It was YouTube. And then Netflix picked it up.
Oh, I remember seeing the original ad on YouTube.
Yeah, and it happens all over. Like there's shows that start on Netflix that now are on HBO, and like they see different angles of potential.
Is it because like different genres or like different like types of shows maybe work better with different companies managing them?
I don't see any correlation specific, but
or maybe the platform has a different audience on it, or
And I think for Cobra Kai in specific, YouTube was very small, and Netflix was able to give them a world platform.
Yeah.
Right. So the riches of Netflix is you could be live, like your show is live in 190 countries.
That's crazy, man. And now when we got the opportunity to meet each other, it was through Tom Bilyeu. He was in Mexico City. We were having lunch together. We got to talking. And how did you end up at Impact Theory?
So I was still working at studios, and he reached out to me.
Like cold?
Yeah.
Like, hey, I heard good things about you.
Yeah. He's like, hey, we have the position open for a CMO. I saw your resume. I'm interested in what you've done. And I was skeptical. I'm like, that's weird. So
because you were vice president of strategy at Paramount.
Correct.
Yeah. You're like, who's this Tom Bilyeu guy?
Yeah. And I looked at what he was doing. I read his story. I'm like, oh, he's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's always good to take the call to see what's out there. What's your, what's your value in the market? And I've taken many calls throughout the years, and sometimes they're worth pursuing, sometimes they're not. But it's good to expand your network, talk to people. And I started talking to him and the team, and I started to really understand what he was building. And the difference, and it's a startup, as you know. There's 60 people there.
Yeah.
But
at Impact Theory or the other projects?
Impact Theory. Yeah. And coming from a studio with thousands of people, it's great because you work on big projects, but the impact that you can create, it's very specific. Okay. At a startup, the impact that you can create is a lot bigger. In terms of learning, exposure, and then put things in motion. So he was like, hey, I'm building this team. I need a CMO, and you can help me build this from scratch.
Yeah.
From the bottom up. Like I said, I love entertainment, and then he's working on, or now we are working on developing a game.
Yeah.
And gaming has taken such an important place in entertainment and people's lives. But I'm like, I don't know a lot about gaming.
Yeah.
This is a great opportunity to learn. And developing a game and understanding gaming. And now I understand the psychology of people who are gamers. I mean, I have a Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
But I'm not a PC gamer. So
that's all I have, man. I got 2 kids.
Yeah.
I can play a bit of Switch here and there, a bit of Zelda.
I love it.
Yeah.
But then you open, I went to a conference in San Francisco a couple of weeks ago, and it's just huge.
Dude, gaming is on a totally different level. Because I used to play when I was 13, 14. I used to play Counter-Strike or World of Warcraft or RuneScape or whatever. But back then it was you didn't tell people you gamed. You know what I mean? I'll just keep this to myself. It's a different space now. So you're working on a game. I know you guys have some NFT and some crypto projects. And then obviously Impact Theory being his primary platform where a lot of viewership comes in to listen to his podcast and all the rest of it as well. So you're kind of responsible for everything across the board?
Yeah. So I have a team that manages the podcast on the marketing side, the socials, and then one that manages the online courses that we have. And then also a team that's working on the game. So I love that part of the job that you can focus on one thing and then another and then another. And I love empowering my team to make their own decisions, to take ownership of the projects. And then take risk. And if they fail, we learn. It all depends on what you learn and how you're gonna address that.
That's interesting. I heard the show Breaking Bad. I heard some stories about behind the scenes. You know how the episodes would start off with a weird video that kind of didn't make any sense and it wasn't a part of that episode? Apparently when they were producing it, the producer gave the videography team complete freedom to mess with things if they had their own ideas. As long as they could pitch an idea, they would let them go test and try different things. So are you trying to really influence that right now in your company where you want people to break things, test things out, see how far they can push the boundaries?
Exactly. I think only if you try those things and you break things, you'll discover new things. So I think that I've been doing that since Hasbro, and try different things, and I learn, and there's lessons. Not everything has been a success, and I learn from both. What worked, what didn't work, what can I do better. And I've been fortunate enough that I've been in positions where I can take risks. So for me to be able to give my team those options and for them to grab them and really run with them, it's amazing because they're like, you know what, maybe we'll break it, maybe we'll blow it up. So
you're in this position now where you have more influence. What you do has a lot larger impact on the total scheme of things.
Correct.
And what's it been like working with Tom and Lisa? Because from my experience with Tom, I had a lunch with him, and then one second we're talking about NFT, the next second we're talking about a video game, then he's talking about his time, creating a comic with Steve Aoki, and then we were talking about his time at Quest and all the rest of it, and Impact Theory. He's such an enigmatic character, but what's it like working with him?
He's such an interesting person because he knows a lot about everything. He's super smart, he's a go-getter, he works really hard, probably harder than I've ever met. But he also empowers his team, and he also manages a company's open to feedback. And not everyone that I've worked with is open to feedback. So be able to we're all learning constantly. So you can learn from your peers, you can learn from your staff, you can learn from your employees or whoever's above you.
Yeah.
So being humble enough to be like, I'm learning from anyone. It's really encouraging for someone that is that smart and that ambitious in a way to create something better. And having this company that is divided into like these 3 areas, I think it's amazing.
A question we love to ask everyone on the pod is, what's the most bizarre or strange thing that you've ever done to create a profit?
To create profit. So when I was working with Star Wars and Hasbro, we talked about like the fandom, right? The adult fandom.
Yeah.
I made a doorbuster event at midnight in a Walmart to capture that crowd.
Yeah.
And
you're like, I'm only gonna get the psychopaths.
Yes.
Do this. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I got like the most amazing fans to show up. I promoted on radio in a post, and that's it. I didn't have budget. I was like, let's see who shows up.
Yeah.
And I was nervous because it's one of the things that you
did one radio ad.
Put a radio ad.
Yeah.
And said like, in 2 days at midnight, X Walmart, we're gonna do a doorbusters for be the first ones to get the new action figure for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Because they kind of like do those things in different places here in the US. And I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen. And it's a Walmart, no, it's not.
Yeah.
So
you're at Walmart at midnight.
Yeah.
Hoping people show up from your radio ad.
So I had to talk to Walmart, like, please keep the store open until midnight. And they were like, fine, let's do it. And it was like
they're like, Star Wars is kind of cool. Okay.
Yeah. There were a few pallets.
Yeah.
And then I was there. I had to like go to the office, come back. When I came back at like 10, there were like 200 people in line.
Whoa. Yeah.
And then it kept building and building and building. And the guys from the store were like, we don't know what to do. I'm like, I don't know what to do either. And they're like,
there's hundreds of people lining up.
Yeah. They're like, should we give them water? I'm like, that would be great.
Yeah.
And then we opened the door and it was just for that. And they went in like, they hustled to get there, grab what they wanted.
Yeah.
But they were like not fighting. And it was so weird and so special and so amazing.
Yeah.
And it was just about like
really respect
getting
fans.
there first.
Yeah.
And seeing it and grabbing it and being part of this moment in time.
Yeah.
Where it's like the new Star Wars.
Do you have like an appreciation for that particular fan base more than others?
Them. Yes. Yeah. And I love the different fan bases because now I understand them and I know what moves them. Am I a fan, hardcore fan? For some things, yes. For some things, no.
Right.
But I think I'm able to understand how people react to different brands.
Yeah.
And how they want to be appreciated.
Yeah.
And listen.
Yeah.
And it just takes, a few times.
So what is it that you found about the impact theory fan base and what they want, what they desire, and like how that kind of is operating as an organism? There's
different ones.
Yeah.
Lisa's fan base is a lot of women that want to be empowered.
Yeah.
Want to get confidence. Tom's, it has different, but it's people who follow him for his take on the current aspects of the world right now, but also in the mindset and building a business and how they both came from practical nothing to selling $1 billion company and then starting another company.
Yeah, people buy into that story.
Yes,
they love that character that came from nothing.
Yeah. And then how they see themselves in that. Like, I'm here with nothing. I want to do that. And
I see. Does that relatability?
Yes.
If they can do it, I can do it. Yeah.
And I think that's part of their magic. Maybe
like, if I tune in, I can pick up on a couple nuggets.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's like, and he says it like, you can do anything you want. If you put your mind to it.
Okay.
There's many caveats, I think, but yeah, you can definitely do.
Yeah.
Great.
I believe that, and I think with how diligent and like creative and risk-taking he is.
Yeah.
He's always looking at a new angle or a new thing, and he's not afraid to fail.
No.
And I think that's so rare in many cases in today's world, as so many people are tense. Like, what if I fail? It's like, you'll learn.
Yes.
What else is there? Like, is it really failure, or do you just learn how to not to do something?
Yeah. And it all depends how much you want to put in the line.
Yeah.
Like people who they're miserable in their jobs.
Yeah.
And they're like, I just, I hate this, but they're like afraid of quitting.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't know what to do. Maybe they are comfortable with the, biweekly income.
Yeah.
So it's just about getting that energy and that passion and that confidence that you can do it.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
And my last question for you is, what's something you're extremely obsessed with right now that you might be embarrassed to talk about?
I do love I do love Disney.
Yeah.
As you know, I'm very intrigued on where they're taking the Marvel universe.
Okay.
And where they're taking Pixar. They've had, you know, one of the best movies in the world, and now they're in a phase that they need to reinvent themselves.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested in where that goes.
What's your opinion as to why they need to reinvent themselves? Because I agree Disney's at this weird pivotal stage where it needs change.
I think it's more they need to focus on what they do best. So, you know, it's storytelling. They just need to tell good stories.
Yeah.
Good characters, good music, and they'll be great.
Yeah. What do you think it is that made Disney's greatest films like amazing? Is that the immersive story that's told in a unique way? Like, is there any particular ingredients that make a good Disney film Disney?
I think they all have a happy ending.
Okay.
And people love that, especially in the US. And they are able to represent different people and visualize the dream of someone. You know, what are girls dreaming about? What are boys dreaming about? What are people dreaming about? It doesn't matter the age.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, like we'll take that dream and make it a reality.
Because that's what like built comic book heroes for me when I was a kid.
Exactly.
Was like, I wanted to be Batman. I wanted to have that power or do those things.
Yeah.
Aldo, thank you so much for giving us your time. It's fascinating hearing these stories and understanding like where you've been and what you've accomplished. And you've accomplished so much in just a short period of time. And yeah, I just love your passion and curiosity for all things marketing and yeah, bringing different worlds together. I think anyone that brings strategy and creativity together, it's not an easy thing to pull off. But it seems like you care a lot about the fan base and the community and just making sure that they're being heard and listened to and provided with material that they can entertain themselves with and have fun with and all the rest of it. But
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been great.